Welcome back to another program of Centrally Speaking.
The program that opens up the conversation around important matters of economics and finance, matters of national importance that have an impact on your life. I'm Sheena.
And I'm Anna. Glad you could join us again. And welcome aboard to those of you who are joining for the very first time. Lots of technical long, but we invite you to stay with us.
We have a great show lined up for you because in today's program, we will again be speaking with Maurene Simms.
And if you remember, Maurene is Jamaica's prime contact to the CFATF, which is the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force. And she's no stranger to Centrally Speaking. She spoke with us earlier this year and promised to discuss the recently held conference, or on-site meeting.
But before we hear from Maurene Simms, we want to hear from you. It's time for Street Check.
What is money laundering?
Money laundering is just a way to convert illegally earned money to make it look illegitimate.
I think that money laundering is the act of illegally, concealing money that was earned from doing illicit activities.
Money laundering is a process where criminals attempt to wash their illegal proceeds through criminal activities through legitimate practices, business proceeds.
Well, I want to say with our peeps in the streets, them are gonna know.
They do.
Yeah, man.
Yes, and a group of countries in our region are working together to implement strong measures against money laundering and terrorism financing.
Yes, and that will have implications on the easy movement of money internationally for us Jamaicans and our friends in the wider Caribbean. But let our guest tell us all about that. You might remember her, Maurene Simms, Jamaica's prime contact to CFATF, which is the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force. Welcome again to Centrally Speaking.
Welcome, Maurene.
Thank you, Anna, and thank you, Sheena, for having me again.
It's a pleasure.
Oh, it's my honor.
All right. So, Maurene, the last time you were here, you told us all about CFATF and FATF and what they represent. So, for our viewers who are new, they're just signing on and watching Centrally Speaking, can you remind us of what CFATF is and also FATF?
Let me start with the FATF.
Yes.
FATF was established in 1989 by the G7 countries. Today, it has over 200 members in the global network, and FATF itself has 40 members.
Okay.
Now, the CFATF is an associate member of the FATF because there are over 200 countries.
Yes.
These associate bodies assist the FATF in doing the mutual evaluations of its over 200 members.
Okay.
The Caribbean Financial Action Task Force, or the CFATF, it was the very first associate body
Okay.
of the
FATF.
FATF. Right.
Now, the CFATF consists of 25 members, and the newest member is the United States of America.
Really?
Oh, really?
Oh, yes.
Joining the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force.
The United States of America officially joined
Okay.
the CFATF at the CFATF's December plenary
Okay.
held in Jamaica,
Nice.
recently concluded.
Nice.
And the members of FATF joining the associate bodies is an initiative of the former president of the FATF, President Kumar from Singapore.
Okay.
So you have members of the FATF
Yes.
joining other FSRBs
Yes.
to strengthen the organization.
Okay.
Oh, okay. That's what it means.
Now, as I said, the FATF has 40 members.
Yes.
Those are the voting members. Those are the decision makers
Okay.
of the FATF. Countries like Jamaica do not have a seat at the table at the FATF.
Right.
So with the United States joining the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force,
Yes.
it affords us, or should afford us, a greater voice
Okay.
in the decision making.
All right. So Maurene, I want to ask you two questions. One is a follow-up, and the other is to just expand on some good news that you gave us earlier this year. So you use a term just now, proliferation financing. For those of us who didn't watch the first program, just remind us what that is.
Proliferation financing It's proliferation of weapons of mass destruction.
I see. Okay.
Nuclear, the proliferation, for example,
Right.
of nuclear weapons.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, got
So,
that.
for example, North Korea is one of those countries, the sanctions list, for proliferation
I
of
see.
weapons
Okay.
of mass destruction.
When you were with us earlier this year, you you had given some good news that Jamaica came off the grey list. Could you give us what happened after the exit from the grey list, and what has it been like for Jamaica since?
In April,
Yes.
Yes.
the Joint Group of the Americas, that is the working group that supports this side of the world for CFATF, they visited Jamaica. And that on-site team assessed the sustainability of the measures that we had implemented.
Okay.
And they were satisfied.
Mm.
So they recommended to the CFATF that Jamaica be delisted
Okay.
or removed from the grey list. So in June of this year, at the CFATF's plenary
Yes.
that was held in Singapore, Jamaica was delisted.
Excellent.
Of-
Excellent.
Hey.
All right. So you spoke about some factors which contributed to us being delisted from the grey list. Could you tell us what those contributing factors were?
The commitment that Jamaica had made
Yes.
to address its strategic email safety deficiencies.
Okay.
The FATF, they commended Jamaica, actually, on the progress we had made and the measures we had implemented. So, for example,
Yes.
FATF, they revised the standard for legal persons. That is recommendation 24. And one of the things on the action item list that Jamaica had to complete was to put in place arrangements for companies to provide beneficial ownership information of their owners.
Okay.
What that means, that persons who own or control that company, the company's office needed the ability or the authority to collect that information
Okay.
and to make that information available to relevant persons. And when I say relevant persons, for example, competent authorities or regulators in their licensing process, for example, financial institutions when they are conducting due diligence, when they're onboarding their customers,
Right.
law enforcement agencies, right? So Jamaica did that. But what Jamaica also did when it amended the Companies Act was that it incorporated the revised standard.
Okay.
As a result of that, Jamaica was found fully compliant with recommendation 24 that treats with legal persons. Earlier, as part of the action plan, we had also amended the Trust and Company Service Providers Act.
Okay.
So as a result of those two pieces of legislation, Jamaica was fully compliant with recommendation 24 and 25.
Ah.
So coming off the grey list was in fact a big deal.
It was.
It was a big deal. Being one of 200 companies that are fully compliant with recommendations 24 and 25 is another big deal.
Yes.
So be a big deal business here deal with Maureen. We see say you're going with yourself.
Yes.
But as much of a deal as those two accomplishments are, can Jamaica come off or go back on the grey list? And if so, what we must do to stay off?
It's quite easy to get back onto that
No,
grey
no,
list.
not talk so. After the whole heap of work.
Remember, we talk about sustainability.
Right.
What Jamaica needs to do is to live up to its commitment to have a strong email safety framework in place. A framework that is advised and informed by understanding of its email safety risk.
Okay.
Okay.
Put measures in place to address them. Financial institutions are living up to their reporting obligations, and law enforcement prosecuting and sanctioning for non-compliance.
Okay. Okay.
If we do that and we do that consistently, we will stay off.
All right, so Maureen, getting to the point of being delisted must have been a difficult process. I want you to share with us and our viewers what were some of the difficulties faced during that process, and how did Jamaica and our related agencies overcome those difficulties?
So one of the first things that we did when we were listed
Yes.
in early 2020, February 2020, Bank of Jamaica, through my office,
Yes.
was named the prime contact. And I was given this task to coordinate the entire program.
Right.
So the bank graciously agreed to helping us establish a prime contact secretariat. Now, the prime contact is also the chair of NAMLAC.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
So through this mechanism, we coordinated all 22 agencies.
okay.
The action plan, time-bound action plan,
Right.
we had a program to monitor those actions weekly. We had quarterly meetings, or we had meetings as was necessary based on the activity that we're doing at the time.
Right.
So it's that coordination, that intense coordination, working with the Minister of Finance, who has oversight of the entire program, that got us through.
Ah.
Okay.
So we are now a cohesive, tight network.
Oh, that's excellent.
You spoke about an on-site assessment for our viewers. So that is where officials from FATF or CFATF come to Jamaica and have a detailed look at our process and our anti-money laundering framework, right? All right, so tell us more about the results of that on-site assessment and what it revealed.
So the FATF has a body. It's called the ICRG. That ICRG is responsible for the monitoring, the increased monitoring of countries who are grey listed.
Yes.
So it mean.
Right. So you have persons from FATF, persons from the region, persons from the United States, the EU countries.
Okay.
So it's a real broad-based. And you also had the representatives from the CFATF,
Right.
whose role was to ensure, almost like a watchdog role.
Okay.
So what is ICRG?
International Review Group,
Okay, cool.
International Cooperation Review Group,
Okay, good.
right? It's a long name, but this is that working group that's responsible to implement the increased monitoring for the FATF.
Okay, all right.
So those persons, so you have several of these groups, and they service the entire globe.
Yes.
Okay.
So you have the Joint Group of the Americas.
Yes.
They focus on the Americas, right? North America, South America, Central America, the Caribbean.
Right.
So that group came to Jamaica. That group was over 12 persons.
Okay.
And they interviewed all the agencies
All 22?
who were part of the action plan and the private sector.
Okay.
They spoke to the banks and the DNFBPs, that is the designated non-financial businesses and professions,
Okay.
like the lawyers,
Okay.
real estate board, the accountancy board. Persons, those are DNFBPs.
Okay.
Okay? And then you had the regulators, you had the FSC, you had Bank of Jamaica,
Okay.
you had law enforcement, you have the FID, MOCA, CTOC, Passport Office,
Oh, yes.
Customs Department.
What?
Whoa.
Oh, yes. As I
Quite
said,
multifaceted.
it
Yes.
is.
Yeah.
So you're talking about a coordination
Yeah.
of that entire group.
Right.
Land and ports and it's
Everything,
interesting. Yeah.
right?
Enough work
And
to do, you know?
all agencies working together for this common goal.
So, Maureen, now that we have concluded the on-site, what's next for Jamaica?
A lot of things have happened. Now, Jamaica is the current chair of the CFATF.
Right.
Right.
Minister Williams
Yes.
she took over that chair in December.
Yes.
And Jamaica hosted the CFATF plenary.
Ah.
Right. I was 1 week of meetings.
Yes.
We had 2 mutual evaluation
I
reports
see.
that were approved. And that's the 4th round. So Minister Williams is now the chair, and she has a work program. And part of her work program is to ensure that Caribbean nations
Yes.
that are AML CFT programs are fit for purpose,
I see.
and to ensure that we stay out of that ICRG
Okay.
process.
Okay.
That's a big part of our work program. So, you know, training
Yes.
for that. We are also going into the 5th round of mutual evaluations. Trinidad is the first country up.
Yes.
They'll have their on-site in January 2026, and Jamaica is right after them. So by June 2026,
Right.
we will have our on-site visit
Yes.
by the assessors.
Yes.
So we'll go through the same process that we went through in 2015.
Again?
Again.
Again,
Eh.
Okay.
yes.
Are we off a grey list, sir?
Oh yes, that was the 4th round. So we are going into the 5th round.
Okay.
And we have our mutual evaluation that we're already preparing for in June 2026.
Okay. Maurene, thank you so much for those responses so far. We're going to take a little break and we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Centrally Speaking will return after this short break.
Welcome back to Centrally Speaking. We are continuing our conversation with Maurene Simms, Jamaica's prime contact to the CFATF, the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force. Before the break, we were discussing the results of the on-site assessment. So, Maurene, how soon should we expectantly look forward to the results of the CFATF, and how soon will the follow-through, the positive impact, how will it bear out on our retail banking, foreign direct investments, that sort of thing that the grey list delisting help us to achieve, or will help us to achieve?
Well, the first thing that I think companies do, financial institutions do, is if they don't have the FATF website pinned on there, they get notifications of when countries are listed
Okay.
and when they're delisted.
Oh,
Okay.
So you can go on the FATF website easily, look which countries are listed and which countries are delisted.
okay.
Because financial institutions have an obligation once countries are listed. And you know, FATF has 2 lists. It has the grey list, which is the increased monitoring,
Right.
and then there is the blacklist, which is high-risk countries.
Yes.
Currently, you have 3 countries
On the blacklist.
on the blacklist, right? You don't want to get on that list because at that point in time, countries must take measures when doing business with you.
Okay.
With increased monitoring, because it's heightened risk, they have to pay close attention. And some financial institutions, instead of going through the additional trouble of ensuring that the transactions are bona fide,
Yes.
they just don't do the
And as
transaction.
block it. Can't bother.
Good example is you may try to do a wire and you're doing the wire to Europe, for example.
Yes.
It's very difficult because of the hoops that the banks have to go through
Right.
to ensure that the transaction is a legitimate transaction. That should get easier
Okay.
now that Jamaica is delisted. Right? So that's one tangible thing that the ordinary man may now experience
Yes.
when you're doing transactions with financial institutions
Right.
abroad,
That's transferring money overseas.
transferring
Yeah,
money
it's
overseas.
getting a little easier.
Should be easier
be.
now that you're off the
The grey
grey
list.
list.
Right.
For our viewers who are new, they're watching
Yes.
this for the first time, you want to delve a little deeper into what the outreach entails. What does it look like?
So we meet with the agencies
Yes.
in the last week of November,
Sorry, these agencies are the NAMLAC agencies.
the NAMLAC
Right.
agencies.
Okay.
We had a retreat,
Oh.
a 2-day retreat, where we discussed the program that we just went through,
Yes.
the things that we need to do now,
Mm-hmm.
like continuing the national risk assessment.
Correct.
We
Yes.
need to do a new one and what is involved in that process, the kind of outreach that the competent authorities, the regulators,
Yes.
must do with their entities.
Okay.
Yeah. So that kind of outreach, right? We're also looking at new and novel ways where we can use technology
Right.
to try and reach persons. I know, for example, the company's office, they have a wonderful website
Okay.
that they have populated that website with all information that a person would need to know
Yes.
when forming a company, the obligations to provide beneficial ownership information,
Correct.
the frequency with which you
Okay.
need to provide it, when beneficial ownership changes,
Okay.
all of that. So it's a kind of outreach. Those are the things that will be focused on. For example, NIDS,
Yes.
that identification system that uses biometrics.
Right.
That information allows a bank, for example,
Yes.
to use that identity information to verify that the person with which they're doing business is that person,
Ah, I see.
right? So that is information, for example, that public awareness could be built around to say the kind of infrastructure that we're putting in place
Right.
will facilitate ease of doing business.
What are the future goals, if any, of the prime contact of the Secretariat and the NAMLAC, especially with respect to deepening the financial knowledge in the private sector and maintaining the high standards of financial integrity?
One of the things that we recognized early is that NAMLAC needs to have a firmer footing.
Okay.
Oh,
And
legal
one of the
footing.
recommendation is for the NAMLAC to be codified,
Right.
Okay.
put in law.
Into law, right.
Right.
Okay.
The prime contact function is a key function because it's that person that the CFATF or the FATF will communicate with when they want to get information
Yes.
to or from the country. It's a very important role. It's that coordinating role, that one person, that go-to person that speaks on behalf of,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
That's a permanent role.
Yes.
Wherever it resides, it's a permanent role.
Yes.
And with the codification of NAMLAC, that role would also be codified,
Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So work is being done in that regard.
What were some of the lessons learned, and what message would you like to leave with Jamaica tonight?
The message I would like to leave for Jamaica is we need a strong email safety framework
I see.
that is informed by risk. So you need to understand the risk you face. You need to put policies and measures based on that understanding of risk, put measures in place that appropriately mitigate or manage that risk. If you do that, it is guaranteed that you'll stay off that grey list.
Okay.
That is my big takeaway. You need to be deliberate. You need to be committed as a country to putting those measures in place.
Okay.
And you're putting those measures in place not because somebody is telling you to do it, but because you are committed
And yes.
to fight crime
Right.
Okay.
And you understand it.
and to ensure that the financial system is not abused.
Okay.
If you can do that, then you'll pass any test.
Okay.
You're not setting up to pass a test that somebody else is setting.
Okay.
You're putting standards in place. your own standards that you're committed to, that is informed by the international standards,
Okay.
but tailored to your circumstances.
That is it. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
If you do that, we'll be good.
All right.
For me, that's a fundamental,
Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And to do that, you have to collaborate, you have to coordinate, and you have to work together.
Okay. Maurene, I want to thank you for a very insightful conversation with us here on Centrally Speaking. It is always a pleasure having you.
Big deal business.
It's my pleasure just to say the work isn't finished.
Just that.
It has just started.
Yeah. Now go back though.
We are not going back on that
Not
list.
going back.
It's not an option.
Of course not.
And we have much work to do.
Okay. So we have been speaking with Maurene Simms, CFATF Prime Contact for Jamaica, giving us an update on Jamaica's standing regarding anti-money laundering and countering terrorism financing measures, and our removal, of course, from FATF's grey list, which is a big deal.
Big deal.
Don't go away. Centrally Speaking will be back after the break. On today's show, we spoke with Maurene Simms, Prime Contact for CFATF. It's time for our Fast Facts. Number 1. The Financial Action Task Force, or FATF, is the standard-setting body established in 1989 by G7 countries to implement measures against money laundering and terrorist and proliferation financing. Number 2. The FATF has 40 members. 9 associate bodies assist the FATF to do mutual evaluations. Number 3. Over 200 countries are members of FATF's global network. Number 4. CFATF is an associate body of the FATF and consists of 25 countries in the Caribbean and Central America, with the United States joining the organization at the CFATF's December 2024 plenary in Jamaica. And number 5. Jamaica was delisted from FATF Grey List at the FATF plenary in June 2024. And at the time of this recording, Jamaica was the only country fully compliant with FATF's recommendations 24 and 25. And that's it for the Fast Facts.
And that's our big deal program for this week.
Follow us on X and Facebook at Central Bank JA, at Central Bank Jamaica on Instagram, and on BOJ's YouTube channel. You can also visit our website at boj.org.jm.
And we invite you to send in your questions on X or Facebook.
And of course, watch Centrally Speaking next week at the same time right here on your station, when we will have another special guest. Thanks for watching.
I'm Anna.
And I'm Sheena. Centrally Speaking is a production of Bank of Jamaica.